We start with the Saints embarking on a new era. Obviously, the Sean Payton era is over after a series of interviews. Looks like they interviewed about 5 or 6 guys. Dennis Allen is the head man for the New Orleans Saints, and certainly not a surprise to us, Jeremy. Both of us thought that was the direction they would go, and they did. Your thoughts on the interview process, the names they brought in, the names we heard, and the resolution with Dennis Allen?
Yeah, the more and more I kind of just see how a lot of these coaching searches is going to go. I think these teams pretty much kind of know who they're going to probably go after and who their guy is pretty early on in the process. But you kind of have to do your quote-unquote, air quotes, due diligence with some of the rulings that the NFL has set up in this collective bargaining agreement with the Rooney Rule and some of those other things. But I think the no-brainer, I think for most people kind of knew. Dennis Allen would probably be the guy. I mean, just what he's done as a coordinator, just the job he's done. You see what he's done to this Bucs offense year in and year out. I think for the Saints, that's the best route to go, and it's not that shocking. So I think the next order of business is when you had an offensive-minded coach who's probably had some of the greatest seasons in NFL history as far as offense goes, and Sean Payton. I think that's going to be very important where they go. With their offensive coordinator, being that Dennis probably won't have much say-so in what's going on that side of the ball. That's going to be their next move, and I'm kind of curious to see where they're going to go with that one.
You know, oftentimes when we're talking about college football coaching searches, we talk about the alignment. Well, actually, Brian Kelly used that word a million times, but just in terms of, okay, what does the athletic director think? What does the administration think? What does the fan base, boosters, influential people think? You got to get everybody kind of on the same page. And the Saints have been a pillar of stability in the National Football League for 16 years with Sean Payton, right above him, the Benson family, whether it was Tom or obviously Gail now, and then you've had so many people who have been through this really entire run or lot of this run with Pete Carmichael, and Dennis Allen's been there for a long time, and there's just a lot of people in those walls that have been there for a very long time. I think that's why this makes the most sense. Now, everyone is saying that. Everyone's writing that. Everyone's saying that. Fans, media, radio, newspaper, Twitter, everybody's saying the exact same thing there. I think what my thought is, and this is not a totally unique take, but it is, I think you have to realize there's a ton to be said for keeping continuity and also realizing this is not Sean Payton's team. And to take him out of that building, and I think to just say, okay, Pete Carmichael, go run the offense, we're good. Like, that's not how it's going to work, especially without 9 playing quarterback. So while I think that what should have won the day did, and the fact that he's been in this organization for a long time, he has been a head coach, his unit is performing at an exceptional level, and he's going to keep his hands all over that. It's going to have to change a little bit. And I think on the offensive side, it looks like they are going to bring some fresh blood in, even if Pete Carmichael does stick around in a role, whether it's offensive coordinator or staying in the role he is right now. I think some fresh blood is very important for the Saints to bring in on the offensive side of the ball to kind of add and complement what you've got in terms of continuity in the organization.
Yeah, you never, and we saw that firsthand here at LSU. Yeah, get that Joe Brady offense, just whatever. Yeah. Just get a guy who knows the plays and all that stuff, and we'll just pick up where we left off. Like, Sean Payton's don't grow off trees, man. You're not going to find a guy who knows how to call a game the way he does, game plan the way he does. So I agree with you on that front. You're going to have to find a guy who's totally different and get kind of these guys back on the same page. And to do that, you're going to have a quarterback. So I think that's going to be probably second on their priority list after they find the coordinator that they're going to hire. Find a quarterback that can play that system at a high level. So I think for the Saints, it's definitely a great hire. I think for them, that he's going to continue to have that defense playing at a high level. You got to get some guys back next season, and hopefully they can stay healthy and not have the amount of guys that they missed the lineup last year. That truly hurt that team a ton. But I love the hire of Allen. I'm curious to see what they're going to do.
It becomes a very, very attractive spot for a potential offensive coordinator, hinging on the quarterback play, which is huge. But you've got some weapons. You've got continuity. It's a phenomenal organization. Look at what's going on over in Jacksonville the last 8-10 years. It's a disaster. Same thing can be said for the Bears, who have been such a joke for so long in terms of the functionality of their organization. You plug somebody in here, there's a culture here. There's and to use that catchphrase again, there's an alignment here. It's a really, really good place, and I think that they can do a really good job of bringing in offensive players. That was not the case in Dennis Allen's first go-around as a head coach with Oakland. Matt said this yesterday. It's worth repeating over and over and over again. Yeah, he was a failure, quote unquote, at Oakland. He got fired after 2 years. His quarterbacks were Terrell Pryor and Mac McGloin. You put Lombardi there, you put Walsh there, you put Payton there. It ain't going to work. It's just not. With Terrell Pryor, Matt McGloin, and cap nightmares, which were very, very much a part of the issue there in Oakland when he took over, it's absolutely not winnable.
No, it's not. It's not. It's a quarterback-driven league. You got to have that guy playing at a high level, taking care of the football, leading your team in all the right ways, and you definitely go the route of having a defensive-minded head coach. Now that becomes a lot harder. It becomes a lot more important. It becomes all the things that we know that you have to have. And I think Saints fans are super spoiled with watching Drew Brees play for over a decade in this city, playing at the level that he played at, having a Hall of Fame career, going to win a Super Bowl. Those are big shoes to fill. So the next guy that they go, I know they're going to probably be extremely active in this quarterback market this offseason. You got to get this coaching staff filled in, but you don't have that quarterback. I think the expectations are definitely going to change if that guy is in New Orleans.
And I'm curious to hear what Dennis Allen says. Again, the press conference today is at 2:30. So Matt will have a lot of sound and a lot of reaction to some of that a little bit later. I don't know if the guys from Early Line will be able to get to any of that on their show, but Matt certainly will. And, of course, Jimmy will as well, and we'll get to it tomorrow. But I'm curious to hear some of the things Dennis Allen says about the staff that he wants to surround himself with. As far as the defense goes, that's his baby. Does he want to just promote Ryan Nielsen, who's a defensive line coach, has been there for 5 years, and just let him run the defense? Does Aaron Glenn consider coming back to a far more stable situation he's very comfortable in? He interviewed here, and maybe that's a better spot for him than Detroit, where he's spent a year. What does he want to do there? And then offensively, what's the situation? The reports are that he's going to go outside the organization for an offensive coordinator and try to keep Pete Carmichael around. I think that is a great idea. Certainly Dennis Allen's been around this league long enough to know what kind of reputation guys have. The recruiting pitch is going to have to deal with the quarterback plans, and that's something that we already know. But I'm curious to hear what you think. So to hear what he thinks. What do you think in terms of defensive coordinator first? Nielsen, does he handle the defense? I mean, I know offensive coaches call plays sometimes. Does he stick around and call the defenses? And then what do you think is the best way to go about things on the offensive side?
Yeah, I think for Allen, especially in his first season, I think he's probably going to want to take that load. We've seen coaches in the past who do call plays, and that's kind of their thing. And then they say, man, well, maybe I can help this team more if I take that kind of CEO role and kind of let someone else call the plays. I don't think Coach Allen, I mean, he's going to talk about that today, but I think he's going to probably be calling the play. So you're hired as a defensive coordinator. It's going to go more towards game planning, coaching on the practice field, film room, and all those things. And you kind of let Coach Allen take over the reins of still calling the plays. And even with that being said, I think for the offensive side, that's going to be more important for me because I know the defense is going to be fine with him running the show and doing everything from that perspective. You're going to have to get this offense figured out and kind of figure out what direction you're going to go that way.
It's different comparison because it's two different levels and the time period is so different. But in terms of laying foundation and passing the torch, what Nick Saban did here in Baton Rouge with getting the Cox Center built, determining they needed a football-only facility, getting everything lined up. And he won a championship, and Sean Payton obviously won a Super Bowl. And then he handed the reins to Les Miles, who did a very admirable job, but was set up in a really good spot with a guy who moved on as opposed to let the bottom fall out, which is what Brian Kelly is dealing with right now. Same thing for Sean Payton passing the torch to Dennis Allen. So anybody who decides to be part of this organization, for the first time in its history, it's going through a transition in a really, really good spot. It's always been an awful spot. Jen Haslett had his success here and there, but after Katrina and that season that they had, it would be difficult to say that this place was in very good shape when Sean Payton took over. So this is the first transition in the history of the franchise that looks like this, and it should be exciting for Saints fans. It should be a little bit terrifying, and I think, but it should be exciting in the same way because your organization is towards the top of the league in terms of functionality, stability, and success over the last 16 years, as opposed to always being in the bottom. And Dennis Allen now inherits that. And again, I think it would be foolish for us to sit here and say this is just a continuation of the Sean Payton era. It's not. Now it is a continuation of the Loomis era. It's a continuation of the ownership of the Bensons, and it's a continuation of what they've built on the defensive side of the ball. I think all those are very, very important things. Your thoughts now as we kind of embark on how you think this is going to work? I mean, that's a pretty simple question. How do you think this goes over the next 6 years?
Ooh, that's a long time in the football world,
It's
man.
a
Especially
really long time.
and what we see with some of these coaches and things not going well, especially early on. I think it's tough to project that far out. But I think for me, it's going to be hard to really know what to expect from this team until you know what they're going to do. Offensive coordinator wise, is it a guy that we've seen, call plays at a high level and really, get offenses rolling? And then I think finding the quarterback. If you don't have those two things done, especially guys you can believe in and trust in, you're not going to get very far. So I think the defense is going to probably, if anything, pick up where they left off, just get it more healthy. I don't know what they're going to do. I think the cap situation they're going to have to figure out. There's a lot of stuff they have to figure out. The cap space, the offense. But I think they can probably win a couple divisions in that time in 6 years, I would say. But without a quarterback, this team isn't going to go very far.
Well, the division's up for grabs because the only team that's quote unquote got a quarterback is in Atlanta, and they haven't been very good the last few years. So it's not a bad spot to land, and certainly Dennis Allen has done that.
Thanks so much for watching Hunt Hill on YouTube.
Now do us a favor, hit the red subscribe button below and throw us a like. See you next time.